Hello. In this video, I'm going to keep working on the bingo program. I had thought about building out the program that writes out the bingo cards as a totally separate program, but then I realized that's silly. They should all just be one program. There should be one program that shows the words and another program and a feature within that program where you can actually make the bingo cards. So and we've already written most of what we need. So let's just build it right into here, and then we'll have one program that kind of does everything. So let's let's open up the toolbox. Let's put a button like on our form here called make cards, and it will make cards using whatever list was loaded in here. So let's just open up our toolbox, drag a button over to here, and the thing I like about forms is that you can just kind of drag and drop stuff everywhere, and I know that that doesn't really scale up, but if you're just kind of building an interface on the fly, it works really well. With WPF, it feels like you really have to plan out where everything is going to be before you start working. So let's make a button here called Make Cards, and then let's also disable that button. So we'll set its enabled property to false here as well down in the bottom right. So now that button is not enabled. And then we had something where when we picked up here when we picked our word list, when we opened up our list, we turned on all our buttons. So let's throw that that button in the list of buttons to enable as well. So now if we run this thing, see there, we got to pick a file, open word list, and now make cards is on our now it's enabled. So let's double click on that and make sure that we have a function to handle when that button is clicked. So maybe what we'll do here is we'll allow we'll ask the player or the user how many cards they want, and then we'll crank out that many cards. So we'll need some sort of little dialog box where the user can enter that value. So now what we're going to do is when they make the card, we're going to take that template, that HTML template with the question marks, and we're going to replace the question marks with words from the list. So let's add the template into our project as a resource, and that way it'll just kind of be there and we can use it. We don't have to ask the player to go pick the template, because the template's not really going to change. And although we could easily read it in with file.readAllText, and that would just go and grab the entire contents of the file. But let's just add our template as a resource. So I'm going to go up to the properties menu here, and I'm going to go to resources, and I'm going to add, let's say add existing file, and I'm going to drag, or I'm going to go into my bingo cards thing, and I want to find the HTML page, bingo.html. That's what I want right there, bingo.html. See, it says Chrome HTML document. That's the one we want. Grab that. So now we actually we'll have access to that text within our project here. Okay, so let's think about what are we going to do here. So when somebody clicks on Make Cards, let's pop up a little dialog that asks them how many cards they want, and it'll validate that amount. So how do we basically make another form that we want to have within our project? Well, that's actually pretty easy. If we right click on our project here, we can just go to add, and you can see there's new item. Oh no, actually right here, Windows form. Add a new Windows form. There we go. And you see now, let's call this make cards form or something. And now we have a totally separate form, right, that we can work on. And let's change its name, its name or its text property, make bingo cards. Oh, I can see this is going to be a little bit interesting, because the this form is not going to have access to any of the things in the other form. So that's going to be interesting. So for our shuffle function there, it would have actually worked better if we had made an extension method. But we can, just for the sake of, we'll just do some copying and pasting here, and acknowledge that that's not the way to go, but it'll at least get us up and running fast, and we won't have to duplicate too much work. But obviously, you don't want to cut and paste. You kind of want to consolidate wherever you can. So let's make a form here. Like button. Let's call this pick words. And just I don't know, just to kind of do things that are a little different here. Let's put a text box here, and let's make this read only. So when we click on this, that'll ask the user to pick a file, and then we'll just put the name of the file there, and maybe we'll have another text box there where they can enter in how many. Let's put a label next to that. Label, there we go. How many? And I don't know how to make this look. Oh, you know what? Let's do it this way. You can make it. You can be like Bob Ross this thing, like your interface your way. I guess that's Burger King. I don't know. Maybe Burger King and Bob Ross have some deep philosophical connection. And then let's make a button here called Create. And let's also disable the create button here. So what I want to do is set its enabled property to false. And I'll enable it when the user selects. Oh, we could even have like a little number picker control here. That would be kind of cool. But I think this is okay. So let's actually now let's actually go double click on these buttons here to make the functions that handle them. And notice here we're in make cards form. We're in a totally separate file from our other form. And then just to show you how this connects here, let's go to the Form 1 designer, and if I double click on make cards, I know I did that quickly. So if I went to the main form and then I clicked on make cards, in here, let me show you how easy it is to just pop up that other form that we created. Now we defined a form called make cards form. I'll call it MCF equals new make cards form, and then to pop it up, I'll just say MCF.do modal. Nope. Sorry. Show dialog. There we go. So I get like a million languages all mangled in my head. And so now let's just try that out, and I'll show you what it does. So if we run this, now let's pick a file, and if we click make cards, see now it's going to pop up our interface, and then we haven't actually built the rest of this yet. So let's go do that. Let's go to, you know what? Here, we're gonna have to copy and paste a lot of stuff out of Form 1, but that's okay. Let's go to make cards form here, let's go to Form 1 and just see what we need. We're gonna have to copy a bunch of stuff out, but that's okay. We'll live with it. Let's grab our list of words. Let's grab that. And what else are we going to want to do? I think we're going to want our shuffle function that shuffles the list of words. So let's go into Form 1, and let's go. We're going to need a random number generator then. So we'll need our random number generator and our shuffle function. And again, having to copy and paste code, that just kind of makes my skin crawl. I think it would have been much better initially if we'd actually Let's find our shuffle function. If we had just made this an extension method on a list of strings, and then that way we wouldn't have to copy and paste it. And then, so let's go back to make cards, and then let's put our shuffle function in here. All right, and then let's also go grab our open file dialog stuff, because that's actually the same. You know, we can actually grab almost all of this, and which button was that? This is pick words. Let's put it in there. And now why is it giving us a gripe about file? Well, it's because we didn't import system.io or include it. So, and then button 3, we don't have a button 3. So really all we want to do is turn on button 2. And then let's go up to the top here and say using system.io. So now let's just see what that does. File, open word list, words. It should actually not do anything different. And make cards. All right, so but we should, we should be able to at least pick the list again, and now see the button got enabled. Now let's also put the file path into this box right here, just to be slick. So let me go back to form, or the second form here, and the button handler. Once we've picked the file, let's just throw the name of the file in text box 1. Text box 1.text equals ofd dot file name, and then let's also make file name read only here. So we could do that in the inspector, or we could actually just right after we initialize the components here, text box 1 dot read only equals true. All right, so now let's run that and see what that does for us. File, open word list, words 2, make cards. Now if we pick our words, see now there it's kind of that's just kind of cool. And now what we want to do is add the handler to this and get the integer out of there. So what we want to do now is get the whatever is in text box 2 and get that. So let's make a variable called numCards here. NumCards. That's how many cards we want, and that's going to be, how are we going to get that out, right? Convert dot to int32. So we'll need to convert whatever the contents of the text box is to an integer. Text box 2.text. There we go. So go into the box, get its text property, and convert it to a 32-bit integer. Oops, it's capital T. All right, now what's the obvious problem here? The problem is, what if they type in garbage? What if or they don't type in anything? So let's put a try catch block around this. Let's do some exception handling here. So I'll say try tab, and you see it actually just stubs the whole thing out for me. So I want to do whatever I think is going to blow up in here. And if it blows up there, what do I want to do? Well, let me pop up a message box. Enter a valid number. All right, so let's try that out and see what that does for us. File, open word list, words 2, make cards, pick words. I've got to pick the words list twice. That's kind of annoying, but let me put in nothing here and say create. Enter a valid number. Enter a valid number. Okay, so that's cool. That works. All right, so now let's have a for loop here. So this is where we're going to write out each card. And length is going to be numCards. There we go. Okay, so what do we want to do? Well, let's call our shuffle function. And then what we want to do is replace all the question marks in the template with a word. All right, so I think that makes a lot of sense. So this gets us into something interesting here, and that's the fact that in in programming languages, I'm going to say, unless you really want to get hacky and low level, strings are immutable, which means you can't actually change a string object itself. You can make copies of it, or and you can anytime you concatenate two strings together, you're not changing the strings. You replace things. You're not really replacing the characters. What you're doing is making a new copy that's been altered. But what we want to do in this case is actually change the original string. And when you need to actually just kind of have almost like a buffer of characters, then you can modify. A better choice, you can use string, but a better choice is actually a string builder, which is the equivalent of a string buffer in Java. It's a buffer that you can dump a string into, and you can treat it like an array of characters and do a lot of operations on it, and then turn the whole thing back into a string. So let's use a string builder rather than a string buffer. They're very self-explanatory, and they support most of the operations that strings support, except that when you modify the string builder, you're actually modifying the contents of the string builder, and you're not just kind of making copies of copies of copies of strings. So let's make a new string builder here that's going to contain the template, and let's call it, I don't know, we'll call it card text. So this is going to be the text for our card. And what are we going to start it off being? Well, let's make a new string builder. And then let's look at the constructors for the string builder. So as one of the templates here, you see there was a capacity. We can say, okay, we want a string builder that's got like 60 characters or 50 characters. Or there's a constructor here that just takes a string. So we can take a string, pass it in, and now we've got this buffer where we can actually modify the string and get a copy back out. So that's the one we want. Now, what text do we actually want? We want our HTML template. And we imported that as a resource. So we can get that as properties.resources. Bingo, right there. See, that is a string, right? And there's our HTML template, and you can see if you look in there, there's lots of question marks, and we're going to replace those question marks with words from our list. So now we've taken our template and we've packed it into a string builder that we can modify. So now what we're going to do is, as long as we can find a question mark, we're going to replace the question mark with a word from our list. So maybe a while loop for this. I mean, we know there's 24 things on there, but I don't know. So we could do a for loop from 1 to 24, 0 to 24, or I 0 to less than 25. But let's do it a different way. Let's say if card text dot do we have contains? No. How about index of? What do we got? Append in length, capacity, remove, replace. Okay, so replace is the thing that we're looking for here. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, okay, hang on. Okay, so, how do we find out if this thing has a question mark? I was hoping it had a contains or an index of function, but it doesn't. But that's okay. What we can do is actually convert it to a string, and then the string has a contains function here. So we can say as long as it contains a question mark, then we want to replace the question mark with a word. All right. So there we go. So now what we need to do is find the index of the question mark. So let's make a variable called index. So what position in the string is the question mark, so we can delete it out and then insert the word from our list. So how are we going to get the index of the question mark? Well, we can do the same thing that we did before. We can say card text dot toString dot index of, right? So that'll tell you the position in the string of that character, index of, and then let's put in our question mark there. So that's going to get the index. If it weren't found, it would return -1. So we could actually have done this up here. We could say, well, the index is not equal to -1. So that's one way of doing it. So now what we want to do is delete out the that character, or that we want to delete out one character at that index and then insert one of our words. So that's why we need the string builder. So let's look at our card text here and see what functions we do have. We do have remove and we do have insert. So that's the advantage of the string builder, is that it actually gives us a way to kind of modify the contents of the buffer. So let's remove. Let's see what our remove function gives us. So we have a start index and a length. So we need, so what do we, and we have both of those. We know what the index is and we know what the length is. The length is just 1. We want to remove that one character. Remove the question mark. And then what we want to do is insert one of our words. So let's say card text dot, and then what do we have here? Do we have insert? Yup. Okay. And what are some of the possibilities here? We've got index. We can insert all sorts of things at a particular index. So there it is. Insert a string at an index. We have our index. And then what do we want to insert? Let's put in, like, words. Let's put in the first word. So that could be words sub 0. That could be words dot first. Either way, they both work. Replace it with, or I'll say insert a word where it was. Insert a word where it was. And now what I kind of need to do something like remove. I don't want to use that word again, so maybe I want to take that word out of the list and put it on the end of the list. So let me let me pop the first thing out of the list. String, I'll call it word equals words dot first. And then let me remove that word from the list. So words dot, do we have remove at? Remove at, there we go. Remove it from the list, or pop it out. I'm kind of treating it like a queue. And then let me add it back to the end, so like we don't somehow run out of words. Words dot add word. So I'll put in here a little note. Move the first word to the end. Move the first word to the end. So by the time this while loop is done running, we now have a bingo card that is ready to write out. Now we have a card ready to write to a file. All right, how do we write all of this text to a file? Surely we have to open up some IO stream and read. No. This is C#, and they've solved all that for us. File dot write all text. Right, that's it. Right. So let's look at what we got here. File dot. Let's see. Do we have write all text? Let's take a look at this. Write all text. What are some of the options? The path and the contents. So let's write out the path. So the path, let's call it card plus, and let's give it a unique number. Now we're inside of a for loop right here. We've got a for loop that goes from 0 to however many cards we want. Let's not have a card 0 though. Let's have like a card I plus 1. So the cards will be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever. And then, so that's write all the text to that file. And then let's also put plus.html on the end of it, because it is a web page. And, or dang, we could have just appended. We could append the stuff all to one file and then just print it. So we don't have to print out 5 different things. I hate doing this, because then I do it, and then halfway through I realize there was a better way to do it. But we're going to stay the course here. So write out to that path, and then the second argument is the contents. And what's the contents? Well, that's our string builder, which was I think we call it card text. and let's convert that to a string. Get its contents. So, and that's actually it. Now maybe we want to, maybe for some reason, the write could fail. Maybe the disk is full or something. So, we could put a try catch block around that. Exception E, and then, pop up a message box. This is never gonna. I mean, this is not gonna happen. But I'm just showing you how you can kind of bulletproof your unable to open file, write card. And then I would tack on E dot the message from that exception. So if it does fail for some reason, it would at least let me know and pop up that message box. All right, let's try it out. Let me put some breakpoints in here and run this thing. Oh wait, why does it? Okay, it doesn't like that. It says I already have a parameter called E somewhere. Oh, I've got an event R because it's a button click. So I've got a parameter called E. Let me just call it EX. EX. There we go. EX for exception. All right, and now let me run it. And did I set breakpoints in here? Yes, I did. So let's go to the file menu, open a word list, and let's say make cards. This is kind of annoying that we have to pick the word list again, but whatever. And then I'll say make 3 cards, create. So now we're in our little loop here. I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear my dog snoring. Okay, so then we want to make 3 cards, and okay, actually it's 2 dogs snoring. And then let's shuffle our list. And now let's make a string buffer or string builder that's got our template in it. And now let's go replacing the question marks with our words. So does it contain a question mark? Yes. So at what index? Index 408. So we're going to remove the character from 408, and we're going to insert the first word from our list, which is stimulus checks. I spelled stimulus wrong. All right, I'll fix that. And then so now what we want to do is get a new word and remove. No wait, what are we doing? Oh, we're pulling. Now we're going to take the first word out of the list and put it on the end. So we pull out the first word, remove the first word, and add it back. So the next time we come through this loop, index. What's our index? 400 character 432. Okay, so remove the question mark at index 432, and now insert the first word, which is World Health Organization, into the list, and now take the first thing out of the list and stick it at the end of the list, right? And we're just going to keep doing this 24 times until we get down to here. And now what we're going to do is write all of our text out to card1.html, and then if we look at our, we'll open it up in, okay, so it wrote it out. Wrote it out. Okay. Finally, when we're done, we want to close this dialog box. Okay, so before we do that, let's go actually take a look at our project here and see if it worked. So let's open up our bin debug folder and then see the card 1, card 2, card 3. Now let me right click on this and open it up in Notepad. Oh look, it looks good, except that I spelled stimulus wrong. And whoops. No, cancel. And then let's open it up in Chrome and just see what it looks like. Open with Chrome. There we go. There's our bingo card. And now we can just right click and print that out. So it kind of would have been nicer to actually, oh no, this is the better way to do it because now at least we know we have page breaks. All right, so now let's just go fix that last little thing where, I think I did something wrong there. Last little thing where we close our dialog box after we write the files. So that's after we have now written all of our text in our button click function, after we've done everything, this is the end of our button click, end, right, and make cards button. And we just want to close this form, and there's a built-in function called close. So close the form. So let's try it again, and let me let's just try it again real fast. Bingo cards, and I just can't let that I can't let that typo stay in there. Okay, so sorry, slightly OCD, I guess. Okay, so there's our button. Let's open up our words list for playing, and then we'll say, oh, you know what, hang on, before we do this we need to make some cards, so let's pick some words. And the first list of words is from all the boring faculty meetings I have to sit through, and I've actually used this program, and but haven't gotten in trouble yet. And then let's say we want 3 cards, and we'll click create, and now it should write out all the cards, and you see, and now it closed, right? So so now we're actually good to go. So if we open up, you know, there's our, you can see it's got, that's the correct timestamp, and let's just make sure that the cards are all, let's make sure that they're actually different. Let's just be safe. I'll double click, and okay, so it's got stimulus check. If they're still not, if they're all the same, no, they're different. Yep, that's good. There you go. Yeah, they are all different. So it actually does all work, and now you can print these out, and you've got this little program here that will actually pick the words for you, and now you can play bingo with your family, and or your spouse, partner, significant other, who, you know, your grandmother, whoever you're quarantined with, and I don't know. Now you have something to talk about and something to do, and you can show off your programming skills. So I hope you have found this to be kind of fun. It's a silly little program. I know bingo is not a very complicated game. It is certainly not Fortnite or Minecraft or whatever. However, it is, you know, there was a chance here to kind of touch on a lot of cool technology, or a lot of cool assets or features of C#, aspects of it, right? We've got our exception handling, our file I/O, string builders, working in 2 separate, you know, having 2 separate forms. So, you know, definitely a worthwhile technical exercise. So we'll call that in-class activity whatever. Just zip up your solution, attach it via the link, and I don't know. And hopefully this is a project you get to enjoy.